welcome folks. This might be a bit of a rambling video and might go on for a while, hopefully not hours. But if you haven't got the patience, you're forewarned, so if you want to go and do something else, go for it. I wanted to do this video. I'm using screen capture software at the moment just so I can show the page at the same time, but I'll more than likely switch at some point because I'm limited to 15 minutes with this, and I know I'm going to go on for more than 15 minutes. So yeah, this is mainly just to capture the page so I can show the comments, and it's primarily to reply to the comments, but I felt it was, because it's subjects that are relevant to the subject of the video itself, the video from Monday the 16th of the 4th, 2018, Sol Excalibur, welcome to your awakening, the episode I did just yesterday. So it's relevant to the subjects we were talking about in there, the awakening, that question of, you know, different people have got different ideas what it is or isn't, and it's a big subject matter. So I covered what I thought I could about it at the time. You know, I did my usual thing, my rambling kind of polemic, as it's called, my talking point about that topic. And some comments posted to the video from yesterday. Thank you to the people posting comments. But it was mainly the comment, well, not mainly, it was the comment from Gas Mask, that I thought I wanted to do this video so that I could reply to it more than just what I felt I could in text alone and just replying in a comment, because he raises a lot of points that I feel connected into the subject in the video, but also relevant to all this stuff going on in this media at the moment. So I didn't want to try and reply in a text where, knowing what I'm like, I'd end up writing that much, it'd just be a wall of text, and there'd be that much in there, it'd just be too much. So it's better to do it in this environment. Anyway, yes, I will read it out just in case it's not that clear on the screen capture, just so it's there for context, and then I'll edit and come back to go through it bit by bit. But Gasmas posted this comment last night, I think, after we finished the broadcast. Please go and check his channel out. He's posting videos regularly about similar stuff to like we often talk about, the current events and the things going on in the world, geopolitical stuff going on, all those kind of topics. So anyway, I'll read through the comment first and then get back to you. Anyway, really graceful. Was tempted to do a rant video about her rise. Kept seeing her videos on the sidebar, so I looked over her channel. She was just vlogging, then did a tabloid hit piece on Hillary that got big hits. Next thing you see is Pizzagate promoting, and viral she went. Good looking, soft voice, pushing tabloid pedo fear porn, all of them tabloid marketeers. Now she's a conspiracy expert with 100,000 subs, when really she's just parroting the latest fear porn with photoshopped images to feed the bottom dwellers. You also talk about Jeff C., who did the same thing for years, pushing parroted Illuminati tabloid fear porn. He even admitted it. Whatever. Just seems strange that you befriend them, yet you're supposed to be wise enough to see through it. Maybe you're starstruck because of their fame. Not saying I'm much better, always posting nuclear war fear porn, and I'm sure I'm a bit jealous because I don't get views. I just can't stand tabloid pushers that act like they are wise, as if dumbing down the masses is an honourable thing. Jeez. Jeez. Yeah. Sorry to the Spectacle replies that the measure, in my opinion, is whether Jeff C. or Really Graceful have ever totally dropped their filters to make a video and get hits. I don't think either has. Compare them with the worst sellouts like Sheridan and you'll see their overall message is positive, in my opinion. And Gasmas replies once more, saying, I was just ranting, maybe it was Really Graceful's video where she sexed up Emma Watson with Harvey that triggered me. I realise there's much bigger fish to fry for sure. It's just I've been here a long time and get tired of the merry-go-round. Viral marketeers literally laughing at the subs buying their conspiratard crap. And if they actually believe what they are pushing, that's even worse. Might as well be selling religion. And then I replied just to, say I was going to do this video. Okay, so I've read through it. I'll come back and start going over each point and I'll get more into it, but I'll have to edit the video here because of the time limitation. So I will be back in a moment. And all that silliness. But that enabled me to switch to this other software. So to go through the comment and the points raised. I subscribed to really graceful channel, Gracie's channel, probably a couple of years ago now. It was during the Pizzagate stuff, and I didn't know about a channel until I encountered it via other people, connecting with other people, etc. The usual kind of connection across the YouTubes. So what she was doing on a channel with a channel before then, I'm not exactly aware of, other than seeing the thumbnails on a channel, etc. But the thing about the tabloid hit piece on Hillary, well, at the time there was a lot of stuff going around on that kind of vein. A lot of people were doing hit pieces either on Trump or Hillary or whatever, and vice versa, doing promotional stuff and whatever. And next thing you see is Pizzagate promoting and viral she went. Right, yeah. Well, as I say, I didn't subscribe to a channel until around then. And I chatted with her during a hangout. I'm not sure if it was Jeff that was hosting it or if it was somebody else that was hosting it, but Jeff was in the hangout, she was in the hangout, I was in the hangout, there was a couple of other people there as well. We were talking about this topic, and we were talking about it from the point of view of another YouTube character who I'm not going to mention because it's just, I don't want to put any attention in his direction, who was doing exactly the kind of thing you're describing, using the Pizzagate affair as a vehicle to push his channel and promote his videos and whatever and get loads of clicks and hits. And as that conversation went on, it became pretty apparent that the people in that conversation were aware, or becoming aware, or more aware of the fact that Pizzagate was most likely some kind of manipulation. So if from that point of view, I don't think I'm giving my point of view. You'd have to ask these people directly themselves, if you want to question why they did this, that or the other, you have to ask them. But the way I perceived it and the way I've taken it is that if she began accepting Pizzagate according to what it was in the tabloid propaganda memes that they were putting out, she then changed her mind about it, or she certainly moved away from that concept of it being as it was sold in that kind of fear porn tabloid manner that you're referencing. Because you say like pushing tabloid pedo fear porn, that whole psyop was really about doing that, creating an astroturfed environment that served the political agendas. It was political promotion. It was part of their campaign towards getting, on both sides of the aisle, getting their candidate into the office. And this is why I think it's relevant to the video from last night, Monday's video, Sol Excalibur video. It's relevant because it's talking about those kind of topics where this medium is used to manipulate what people think, to therefore get them to do something in particular in their lives, like vote for a particular candidate or support a particular candidate, etc. But it's disguised in this I described it at the time, it's like Scooby-Doo fashion. It's disguised in this Scooby-Doo trail, this cryptic treasure hunt trail that's done partly online and partly in the real world. You know, it's there as a trail of candy to lead them to the gingerbread cottage. So in that respect, I know what you're referencing, mate, but I do not feel that is what she was doing. If she came across the subject matter initially as it was, her attitude, I think, changed from what she learned from that situation. So if anything, it was actually more productive in the point of view of revealing that thing to be more psyop than it was genuine in any way at all, according to the original claims and all the stuff that was put out. But I think all of that is very relevant when looking at this medium and people coming into this environment who may be new to the information, or they're working their way through the different layers that are presented in front of them to disguise a lot of the stuff, or to distract them back into the matrix, the revolving door, the spinning door at the supposed exit of the gift shop. You know, the fact that, as well, next you're referencing, based on the Pizzagate thing, now she's a conspiracy expert with 100,000 subs, when really she's just parroting the latest. I'll come back to that because there's more other stuff as well. But now she's a conspiracy expert with 100,000 subs, and this is also relevant to Jeff C's channels that he had when he was still primarily on YouTube. There is a stigma applied to these numbers. Just because somebody is popular or connects well with a large audience, therefore ends up with a big number next to their subscribers or view count or whatever, does not automatically make them bad. You know, popularity does not necessarily equal bad. That's a leap of logic connecting the two. In the same manner as attractiveness or ugliness does not relate to truth or lies. Yeah. Attractive people lie, ugly people tell the truth. It doesn't work that way. You know, so just because, if you say she's good looking and soft voice and stuff like that, if people find her attractive, that's obviously a benefit in the sense of more people are likely to want to look at her videos because they find her attractive. Therefore, she's more palatable to a bigger audience. A lot of people, I know that I don't appeal to a large audience because of the way I am and the way I present things and the style that I do my thing in and whatever. It's not palatable to a large audience. It's not palatable to the mainstream. They ain't got the patience to sit and listen to me waffle and do my little, you know, wandering round the bushes describing what I'm trying to get across. Yeah. So if you are able to present things in such a way that appeals to that demographic, obviously you're going to get more views, you're going to get more clicks, you're going to get more subscribers. You've also got to take into consideration in this environment a lot of stuff to do with the numbers that are presented on the channels and on view counts and whatever. You got to take it with a pinch of salt to a large degree because of the way this environment is manipulated. I'm not suggesting that, you know, the number of subscribers is completely wrong or whatever. It gets massaged and it gets altered and messed with, and all over the place there is this manipulation to make it seem a certain way to the people viewing it, so that they can manipulate the different demographics into different zones. So for example, take my own channel as an example. I don't have a large number of subscribers, yet consistently I get roughly the same percentage of views compared to subscriber numbers. So I've got something like 1100 subscribers. I get on average around 100 views on the broadcasts I do. So that's approximately 1/10. It's between 1/9 and 1/10, something like that. And that's remained consistent for a long time. And it's slowly built up because I'm fairly confident that the people who come back regularly to listen, it's a consistent thing. They do it for a period of time. It's not just a listen once and then they're off. And that's you can do that on other channels. Look at the subscriber numbers and then look at the actual views on their regular videos that they upload. Not the once in a while big things that might attract a lot of attention, but what's the consistency of their viewer base, looking at it from that kind of marketeer point of view. And it's a way that you can see how the numbers are either messed with in some manner or they've been manipulated in some way. For example, people buy views, people buy subscribers. The multi-channel networks that operate in this environment do all that kind of stuff. They massage those numbers, they bring in fake views and stuff like that. That's the way this environment is. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's fair or any of that stuff, but it's just that's the way it is at the moment. So we're trying to deal with that and at the same time reach the audience. And I feel I've come to appreciate the fact that in this environment there are various layers, and those layers get different numbers. Those zones get different numbers. And I think part of the tactics of what the system has been trying to do in their manipulation of this environment is segregate those areas and those layers so that there's no crossover. They're trying to snip the connections between them so they end up becoming more controllable little compartmentalizations. And the movement, the cross-traffic and the cross-pollination between different areas gets restricted. So it's less likely that people studying one particular subject or question never encounter people who are studying something that is actually interrelated and they could both learn from each other. Things like that. So in that respect, see what I mean? There's multiple points in there to address rather than just in a simple comment. Just because she's attractive doesn't mean she's bad or wrong or evil or a marketeer or whatever else. That in this modern age, people prefer to look at attractive people. They're more likely to get the clicks, the subs. So in that respect, what are you having a go at her for? You're telling her she should be ugly. She's not allowed to speak anything unless she's ugly or whatever. It becomes silly after a while. As for just to as well reference the Pizzagate thing, that's one particular example. You could reference many other events that have happened in a similar way. Just Pizzagate was that recent event, and from it she got a lot more attention, she got a lot more subscribers and popularity and whatever else, all that kind of stuff. But it could be referenced from other events, for other people, for other channels. This is not something new or special just to her, and it's not something new or special just to that kind of method of how this environment operates, the medium. As far as in my comment I put, I think it's more about the medium than the individuals themselves. It's not completely separate, it's a symbiotic thing, but this medium creates that stratification effect, that layering effect, and the zoning that they've been doing to us to separate it and split it all up. So there is this viral way that if people happen to cotton on to a topic that's currently the buzz topic, everybody's talking about it, it's the popular news of the moment, then the crowd, the herd tends to come along and pick up whoever those people are that are covering the topic that they're interested in at the moment. So if you happen to cover a topic that is, mainstream media occupation that most of the public is talking about, and you're going to get more clicks, you're going to get more views, you're going to get more subscribers. And in that, the demographics and who you happen to click with, that can be down to, you can manufacture your output in a certain way to suit certain demographics. Like, I know for a lot of the people that subscribe, listen to my stuff, they're usually older people, not young people. Most young people ain't got the patience to listen to some old git waffle on for hours. So they're usually older people. There's other aspects to that demographic as well. The people who've got a bit more patience to listen to somebody bloviate. It's a good word for it. But again, demographically, the way she does her thing, the way she produces her videos, the style of stuff she presents, and the topics she chooses to cover are more relevant to a bigger demographic than I appeal to. There is a crossover there on some of the topics and things, subjects and events that we cover. But that palatable factor is important to consider when you're looking at, well, why is she getting so many hits? And so, well, maybe it's just because of the way she's presenting stuff. Maybe it's because of the style that she does her thing, or the subject matter that she chooses to cover. And that as well, in terms of she used to do this and now she's doing this, and all of a sudden she's a conspiracy expert. It's like, mate, what were you doing 20 years ago? If we constantly judge everybody on what they used to do alone, and only judge them on what they used to do, then I don't think we're going to be progressing anywhere. I find that difficult to work with. That's unhelpful. It's a hindrance. Whereas I look at the pattern of people's behaviour and their output, their fruits, and if there's some bad bits here and there, that doesn't mean I completely discount what they've done. Everybody's in their own process, everybody's in their own learning. This is what I was describing in the video, and again, why I feel this is relevant to the topic that's covered in the original video. Everybody's in their own process, and everybody's at a different point in that process. That's where it is relevant to the individual rather than the medium. Everybody's got their own biases, everybody's got their own different point of view and opinions and ideas on stuff, as well as the body of the information, the knowledge, the data that they have, either in their heads or available to them, that they know about, because if you don't know something exists, you don't know about it. So if there happens to be a bit of information out there that you've got no idea exists, then how can anybody say you're wrong for not knowing about it? It's nescience. You didn't know it existed, therefore you can't add it into your consideration. We've all got nescience about lots of stuff. To becoming a conspiracy expert, I don't think she considers herself a conspiracy expert. I don't consider a conspiracy expert. I don't consider too many S's in this sentence. I don't consider myself a conspiracy expert. I don't consider Jeff C a conspiracy expert. So this is a semantic thing. Why are you talking about into what kind of conspiracy? Conspiracy is a general descriptive terminology which covers just about everything, or a particular conspiracy. How much do you know about JFK? How much do you know about this topic or that topic or this conspiracy? What do you mean conspiracy expert? And in this environment, a lot of that serves the purpose of the marketeers, because there's a lot of people out there who will claim or attempt to assume that authority over others. So they present themselves as the be-all and end-all of whatever question it is. Again, reference in the video, me talking about Sheridan. he has that kind of attitude and marketeering style. If we project that limitation on each other constantly, then again it's a hindrance. I find it to be a hindrance. I can't work with it. It slows me down. It's difficult to apply that to all this stuff and then be able to keep moving. You know, there's a few channels I follow who've got large numbers of subscribers. I really don't think that just because they've got a large number of subscribers that means they're bad. Popularity does not necessarily equal incorrectness. You know, there's a lot about the way the mainstream works and the way the mainstream, the big centre of the herd, the mass of that herd mentality, is used and manipulated by the system, which includes that sub-stratification of the marketing branch, the business, the industry of all this stuff. Yeah, it's used, reference bonnets and propaganda. But I don't think it's a complete answer to say that anything that over a certain number equals wrongness. Ignore it. You know, where's the demarcation line for that? I've got 1,100 subscribers. If you get 10,000 subscribers, does that mean you suddenly become the wrong? You go over the wrong side of the line. It's not about the numbers. It's about the content of what's there. It's not about the colour of the skin. It's about the content of the character. This is exactly the same thing, just in a different body. Yeah, the medium of this internet environment that we use to do this kind of thing. Think of that as like the body of the whatever you're looking at. It's got a certain pigmentation, but that doesn't mean it's XYZ. Hopefully that makes sense in that kind of metaphor, but anyway. And you said when parroting latest fear porn and photoshopped images, I don't know about the photoshopped images. I don't think I saw that. You mentioned it in your other comment as well, so I don't know with that one. If she was trying to use it as clickbait, or again, I think I said earlier, you'd have to ask her herself, ask Jeff himself, etc. If you want to, question why they do a certain thing the way they do it or whatever. But the latest fear porn thing and connects into what you were saying about the kind of Illuminati tabloid fear porn stuff. In this environment, a lot of people do just recycle the mainstream media and what is commonly referred to as the alternative media, so info whores and all that lot. They'll take an article or a news headline from one of those websites or one of those media outlets, and in effect they'll just regurgitate it. Some of them blatantly just read the article out. There's some channels out there that do quite well for themselves and have done for years by doing almost nothing but that. For some people it's helpful because it acts as a kind of amalgamation point where they gather stuff from multiple different websites and bring it together into one place for people to look at. But many of them do use it as just a vehicle to try and earn money via monetizing, because all they're doing is acting as a repeater, and then they're putting their adverts on the channel and the videos, etc., to try and get click through to earn some dollars off it. It's just like in physical world, where if people see an opportunity to earn $1, they do that kind of stuff. As to whether she is just doing that, your implication is that she's just a fake conspiracy expert, and the only reason she's got all these subs is because she just parrots fear porn from the mainstream media. Easiest way to put it, mate, is I disagree. I don't think she is doing that. I think I've watched her content change a lot, and I've watched the amount of information and context that she puts into her videos increase every time. So, as I said earlier, everybody's in their own learning process. Everybody's going at their pace, and they're at the point that they're at. So maybe this is all just part of her own process of her finding out about different stuff and, you know, digging into the information like a lot of us do. Some of the kind of like parroting tabloid stuff or repeating mainstream media, again, that could have come from that process of, she was originally, let's call it this way, she was originally in the Matrix, yeah, and then she sort of started to find out bits and bobs, and then Pizzagate happens, and the mind's just like, oh, what's all this, and you start to get that rabbit hole effect. And as you're working your way through those layers, you're working your way through that process, most of us, I think, you know, I've done it, I probably still do it to a degree, I certainly did it a hell of a lot more years ago, that a lot of that process is you will go through that stage where you're looking at everything that the mainstream media is putting out, and most of it, you're accepting it for what they claim. And you're then like finding out other information, you're like, oh wow, and it's a slow, well, not slow necessarily for everyone, but it's a progression from being focused only on one source of information and starting to realise that the horizon is widening and you've actually got all these other sources of information available to you, and some of them don't, you know, they don't corroborate. So this one side that for most of your life you've been told to believe everything they say, take BBC as an example, and then you discover that, oh, hang on, that stuff they told me on the news last night, turns out that wasn't true. I find out all this other information from different sources so I can corroborate it, and what they said on that news report was just lies. And you then eventually work your way towards, well, I ain't going to focus just on what they put out, I'm going to start looking at all this other stuff as well. To eventually, as people go on, you'll see, I've seen it happen so many times, and watch the content of people's channels go from, like I described earlier, where they're almost literally just parroting a mainstream media article, to them hardly even referencing at all the mainstream media article. And this, again, this stigma that is projected, that if anyone is successful in this environment or is doing well for themselves or whatever, or becoming popular, that automatically means they're bad. They're automatically a shill. They're automatically an inside agent that's getting help from behind the you know, in the shadows, behind the curtain. Yeah, sometimes that's true, but it's not always true. Not everyone is a shill. Yeah, it's not it's good to have a questioning mind and to not be naive, hopefully, yeah, because if you are, most of the time you're not aware that you're doing it, but the point being is like, yeah, it's great to be a questioning mind and to go with a touch of I was going to say suspicion, but yeah, that's got bad connotations, but you know what I mean, being a bit more skeptical rather than just jumping feet first into something. Yeah, that's great, but it's not, you know, you can't just shut everything else out. And again, if it's about, because something is not quite the way you want it, you know, you don't agree 100%. That's something that's been common recently as well, that I meant to talk about last night and I didn't remember to get it in. It's that kind of concept that unless we agree with something 100%, we just can't accept it. Yeah, and this is in terms of like people, their channels, the stuff that they put out, the information that they put out. There is this stigma that's been pushed into this environment where it's like, oh, if you don't agree 100%, then that means they're bad, they're evil, they're working for the agencies, they're this, that and the other. Whereas the reality of this existence is most of the time, how often do you agree with someone or something 100%? And if you don't like the way she does her thing, if you don't like the style or the topics that she's covering, then you don't have to look at it. You don't have to participate in it. You can be doing your own thing. This as well is something that's been happening a lot more recently. I need to pause the video for 1 second, and I've gone on for far too long. To try and continue with that thought and explain myself, something else that's been building up recently. It's not just recently, but it's been going on for years, but has been ramped up more in recent times. That need to create the authority structure by determining who is or is not a shill or an agent, and whether they're competent or not to speak on a particular topic. But it's been taken to a ridiculous degree, to the nth degree, such that now it is, the way I'm trying to get it across is, rather than stressing yourself out and getting frustrated and annoyed because somebody else's channel or somebody else's point of view is doing better than you because they got more views and more subs and whatever, that's been woven into the gameplay, the manipulations in this environment. So rather than stressing yourself out and feeling that you're banging your head up against a brick wall because you're fixating on the negativity of the fact that they're more successful than you, that works against us, and that's been, like I say, woven into this environment deliberately for that purpose. Now we've got this plethora of channels out there who are like shill hunters and shit like that. People who maybe they've got good intentions in the first place, but it gets stupid, because it's like, how can you be 100% sure? If you've got actual evidence to prove something like that, then you put it out there and everybody can see it, and then everybody will know, and that's it, job done. But these people don't. They're basically just troll campaigns where all they do is constantly stalk and harass people, harass their channels, attack their channels because of whatever their reasoning, or if they're paid to do it or whatever. So this thing about, they're getting more subs than me, they got more views than me, they got more clicks than me. I like that Jello Biafra saying, don't hate the media, become the media. If you think she's doing something wrong, do a video about what you think and what evidence you got to show, or what reasoning, what argument you got to present, and then do that, and then carry on with doing your stuff. If all you do is follow somebody else, I'm saying she just because you're referencing Grace in your comment, but this is applicable to so many others out there. Yeah? If you spend all your time just dogging another channel because you want to, you want to do whatever, bring them down or shut them up or something, you're serving the purpose of the system. All you're doing is helping the system, creating that divide and conquer, and creating these segregations where somebody is supposedly an allowed authority. Think of some of the big names out there like Gimp Boy Watson or whatever. If he was so anti-establishment, he wouldn't have the number of views and subscribers that he's got. So it works for their purpose. Many people have described that aspect of the kind of the mockingbird agenda and the controlled opposition, limited hangouts, etc., etc. It's, again, all links into the subject matter of the awakening. So looking at it from that point of view of just because of the numbers, and now they're suddenly a conspiracy expert, and that's why all their stuff's going viral. Maybe she's just good at doing the promotion side of things, like she's good at the social media and whatever. I'm not trying to defend her or justify what she's doing or anything like that. If you don't like her or a channel or whatever, that's up to you, right? That's your choice. You decide what you look at and what you participate in, yeah? And that's true again across the board. It's just relevant because of these references and connections into stuff we were talking about in the video. So to try and move on to get, adding in the other part of the comment about Jeff C. I mean, it's still sort of more interconnected because it's referencing the same kind of. Oh, one sec. I'll stop again. Okay, back again. Sorry about the interruptions, but it's been a day of interruptus day. I'll try and get back into the flow of what I was saying. I'd got to the point of addressing you raising the point about Jeff C in a similar fashion to the other stuff about the tabloid fear porn, stuff like that. I subscribed to Jeff C's first channel years ago when he only had a couple of thousand subscribers, and it was after or during the Sandy Hook stuff, and that was how I originally came across his channel and subscribed to him. And I followed his channel, that channel, plus the others he made after that since then. So you're talking, it's been several years, hasn't it? Sandy Hook was 2012, so it's been at least up to this time 6 years. I say similar to what I've said about many people, or probably nearly everybody. I don't agree with everything he says or does, but I find the majority of what he does, what he's saying, I agree with. So we go in the same direction, kind of thing. We're sailing the same direction. So I'm along with that. So you're saying about the tabloid fear porn kind of sort. To me, that just doesn't really come across with stuff other than, like I was saying earlier, just like so many other people, like so many people still are now. A lot of people go through a stage, you go through that section of your awakening, really it's an appropriate word to use for that point. You go through that process of gradually moving away from the mainstream stuff, as you call it, tabloid fear porn. And often, most of the time, the reason that people are talking about those particular stories is because it's a popular topic, it's relevant in terms of what people are looking at in the mass of the public. They're looking at those stories have been presented to them as being what they have to be preoccupied with, what they need to know about their reality at the moment, etc. The framing of their perception. So most of the time when we're talking about that kind of stuff, and I say we because like I said, I've been part of the same kind of stuff now for years, so if you're pointing that kind of finger at somebody like that, then really you're pointing it at me as well, and so many others. Referencing that kind of tabloid media so that we can point out for people or pull it apart the fact that most of what is presented in this is fear porn. It's tabloid media. Even if it appears in so-called highbrow publications like the Times or whatever, it can still be just as much fear porn as in the gutter press. So in that respect, in the same way as what Society of the Spectacle was saying in his comments, on the comparison overall, there's more that I agree with than I disagree with. And nobody's perfect, man. Everybody makes mistakes. If this is about getting something wrong or putting forward an idea or information that turned out to be incorrect, then I'm just as guilty as that. Probably everybody, being a bit careful with using the everybody word, but probably everybody at some point has been wrong about something. So if it's sort of like as soon as somebody gets something wrong or passes on a story or bit of information that turns out to be wrong or just fear porn, then that means you discount everything else they do. Again, that's not really helpful in the long run. So I suppose really all I can say is similar to what I said in terms of grace, really graceful channel. If it's something you don't like the style, you don't like what they're saying, or you don't have to look at it, you don't have to participate in it. But I think it's a stigma and it's a hurdle, a sticking point in this environment, this media environment, this social media environment, where there is this absolutist expectation. People either have to fit exactly a certain model or expectation, or they get discounted. They get one thing wrong, and from that point forward, they're discounted. It's the kind of restrictive thinking that the system is happy for us to perpetuate because it enables that divide and conquer, and we self-police and self-segregate. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine in supporting both those channels. I think it's great that they're able to do things in a way that reaches a much bigger audience than I can reach in the way I do things. I know that what I do and the way I present it is not appealing, it's not palatable to the larger mass, that mainstream media audience. So I rely on that ripple effect. I know that eventually people working their way through all this stuff, it's like, as I mentioned in the original video, when people come into this environment, they're first presented with all the stuff that is presented to them by the system. So when you first start looking for conspiracy theory stuff, the very first things you're presented with is stuff like info whores. And that's that gift shop process where they keep trying to get you to turn round and go back into the middle of the circus. They want you to stick with the trending stuff that they are suggesting that you watch. So that process, I rely on that process, that eventually people who are genuine and actually really passionate and interested in the subject matters and in the information, they'll keep looking. They'll keep making their way through that gift shop, those bramble bushes on the pathway, and at some point they'll either encounter me directly in these broadcasts or videos or whatever, or with that ripple effect they'll encounter the same information presented to them by somebody else. And to me, that's what matters. Getting the information across, getting the message out in the cheesy cliched way of saying it. Whether it's me that gets that across to them or somebody else that gets it across to them, it's the getting it across to them that matters. And people have different tastes and biases, so the way it's presented by one person or channel may appeal to them more than the way it's presented by somebody else. So my main concern, again, this is like, as Society of the Spectacle is sort of pointing out in his comment, my main concern is the long term of, is this getting across the information, the messages, the ideas to as many people as possible, and making it comprehensible to as many people as possible. If that's, God, like I said, it's been interruptus day today. Now the computer's making questions at me. Anyway, I'll try and wrap this up because I know I've been rambling on a fair bit. As long as that message is getting across, I'm quite happy to be a tiny little channel with hardly any subscribers and views, because that's just the way this environment operates. And the numbers are just the numbers, right? It's more about getting the information out, getting the message across. And the way I try to do things is, as long as I see more that I agree with, I help people, I support people. I'll share their content with others in the same way as I'm grateful if people do the same. They reciprocate. And in effect, that's what occurred over this weekend. That's because I should really address that point. Strange that you befriend them, yet you're supposed to be wise enough to see through it. I don't call myself wise. Yeah, I talk a lot about those kind of subjects, wisdom, gnosis, knowledge, all that kind of thing. Yeah, but I don't call myself wise. That's arrogance. If other people think that of me, if other people like what I'm saying or whatever, that's up to them. Yeah, I'm not going to presume that. I'm not sitting here going, I'm Mr. Wise. I know all this. Listen to my proclamations. As far as I'm concerned, it don't work that way. History decides who are the wise people. Yeah. So in that respect, please don't project that onto me. If you don't think I'm wise, then that's great, mate. You don't think I'm wise. If you think I'm being foolish by befriending these people, then that's that's up to you. That as well seems to be somewhat of a constant sticking point in this environment because of the way this internet, this social media stuff is a networked based system. That's the way it works. It reflects in the digital world, in the virtual world. It's a reflection of the way we socially network as beings, as humans, people interacting with each other. We have social networks in the same way as these networks reflect into the virtual medium. And so all I'm thinking about is saying as befriend. It's sort of like I could call these people friends, but I've never met them in real life. They're people that I've encountered online. I'm not naive enough to completely drop all my skepticism and go, oh, well, somebody posted a nice comment about me, therefore I love them forever. They're my closest friend. I'll tell them all my innermost secrets and my... It doesn't work that way, does it? So I'm networking with these people, and as far as I'm concerned, they're friends that I've made online. And I can interact with them in that manner as a friendly basis interaction. It's not all about just doing the work kind of stuff. As far as I'm concerned, it's like a lot of what goes on in this immediate surroundings, this environment. A lot of us chat, not just in these broadcasts. We interact in the comments, we interact in chat rooms. You get to know people a little bit. You get to have inside jokes because you've shared a moment online where you've seen the same thing and had a laugh from it. That is the virtualized friendship network. And to me, that main thing is if I encounter people, as I say, that are doing similar to myself, or that they're talking about the same kind of things as me, and I agree with more of what they're saying than I disagree with, then I'll sail alongside with them. Yeah? I'll work with them in effect, even though to me this is not work. If that all makes sense. So it's I don't think it's really a fair point to sort of talk about is it wise to get to know somebody or interact with somebody online. So that could be applied all over the place. Mate, just to finish going through your comment, maybe you're starstruck because of their fame. It's not being starstruck, not at all, because look at it from this point of view. If I was more interested in the fame angle, and I was like, ooh, famous person, then look at YouTube alone, let alone the rest of the internet. YouTube alone, there are so many channels who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, a million subscribers, who are YouTube celebrity famous, world famous. If I was interested in the fame, wouldn't I be chasing after them and trying to get their attention? So it's nothing to do with being starstruck because Grace has 100,000 subscribers. If anything, to me, it was the scale of the numbers and the possibility of how many people could be reached by the message that made me go, ooh. When she mentioned me the other day on a live broadcast, I was like, wow, that's going to reach thousands of people, thank you. So she was doing me more of a favour than anything I've done. I'm just doing the same as I do with so many other people. I interact with people's videos, I interact with them online, I click like on their videos and whatever. I've done exactly the same with her as with so many others. It just so happens that I have had the opportunity to speak with her on a hangout. So, I've had a bit more interaction than just clicking likes or posting a comment. But I've spoken with multiple people in hangouts. I was tempted to say hundreds, but it probably only just about gets up to around 100 there. But over the years that we've been doing this, I've spoken with a lot of people in different hangouts, from a range, a whole spectrum of all walks of life and all aspects of this medium, this internet medium. People have got channels of all different sizes. I think 100,000 is probably, that's up there with the most out of people I've interacted with, but even so. It's not about being starstruck of their fame. And again, I'd reference look at the content rather than just fixating on the numbers and the popularity game. It's great that some people are able to reach that many. To me, that's important. That's helping all of us. It's having somebody who's able to, like Roger Waters did the other day in his concert where he spoke about the white helmets. That's an immense step forward for that information, for that message. And just because he's a celebrity, does that mean you have to ignore everything he says and just automatically, shut it down? I don't think so. I mean, you're a bit self-reflective talking about what you post yourself, which is fair enough. And can't stand tabloid pushers. I can't stand tabloid pushers that act like they are wise. Dumbing down the masses as if dumbing down the masses is an honourable thing. On that, I agree with you. But there's plenty. And I say but, it's not a big but it's in there, it's the but. There's so many channels at the moment that do exactly what you're describing, but in an absolutely, the epitome of what you're describing. And yet, you seem to be focusing on somebody who, in my experience and my perception, isn't really doing what you're describing. Or maybe that's how they sort of began getting into this thing, and then they started to see that bigger picture of how all this environment is manipulated, blah blah, and they started to progress from that point. There's a hell of a lot of channels on YouTube that push absolute tripe, and it's monetized. Because that's what this environment has become deliberately. They did this deliberately to create all this mess. And then they've begun that process of installing the fences, the segregation, the perpetual arguments between different groups out there, etc, etc, etc. It's similar to what you said in your other comment. Viral marketeers literally laughing at the subs buying their conspiratard crap. And if they actually believe what they are pushing, that's even worse. Might as well be selling religion. Yeah, again, as I just said, there is so much of that going on in this environment. I don't think the two people you're referencing are doing that. If they were, I think they would approach some of the information they try to present people in a completely different way. It'd be more like PewDiePie. And oh man, I can't think of the name of the channel. There's the one channel that's got a lot of subscribers, and all they do is post so-called UFO video clips. And from everything I've seen, every time I'm even bothered to look that direction, it's just crap. It's usually fake stuff, badly edited or whatever, and it's just like they just fill in this environment with crap and then commodifying it. So, you know, you talk about conspiratard crap, to me that's exactly what you're describing, and I don't see that in what Grace and Jeff are doing. I'm sorry, I just don't. So I disagree on that. Anyway, yeah, just to sort of reiterate that point as well, of like, if anything, Grace was doing me a favour. I've never asked anything of her. She's never asked anything of me. Yeah, I've interacted with her and her videos because I appreciate what she's been doing and the content, the videos she's been putting up, and the way she does them makes it reach a bigger demographic than I can. So I interacted with her in that way. She never asked me to do anything. She comes and listens to the show. You know, she'll turn up in the chat sometimes and say hello, etc. Yeah. So to me, she's never asked anything of me. So for her to do what she did, to me, that's like she's doing me a favour, because she's potentially connecting thousands of her audience to me and to this channel. That's spreading that reach further. In reference to the actual original video, the subject matter of the awakening. Yeah, this is where I think, and this is again why I wanted to do this video in this manner. A lot of the points that you're raising are things that have been true in this medium, certainly YouTube, but social media in general, has been true for several years now. And the level of it, the intensity of it, has been increasing over the last few years, to the point now where they're starting to get to the final conclusions of setting up those segregated areas and setting up the feedback loop systems where people are getting stuck into echo chambers and stuff like that, where they're separated off from each other and they think they're getting the information they're looking for, but they're actually being shadow banned and cul-de-saced. So all this kind of stuff is in this environment. You know, I carry on observing this environment from the from my point of view. So a lot of the stuff I see and a lot of stuff I talk about is from my point of view. I don't think, we don't need to all agree on absolutely everything. This was something that I meant to mention in the original video. If you consider it from the kind of 6 degrees of separation idea, I don't have to be directly interacting with people that I can't get along with or don't get along with, or they don't get along with me. They don't like me, so they don't want to interact with me. I don't need to be directly interacting with them to still be talking about the same kind of stuff, the same information, the same ideas, and the ideas get moved forward. The discussion gets moved forward without us two having to interact. But in between us two is that network of other people. And in a 6 degrees of separation kind of idea, just because I don't get on with that other person doesn't mean that there isn't a chain of interrelationship between me and them. So stuff I'm talking about, they might pick up on. They might disagree with me and put out a video about how they disagree with me. But that's part of that process of how the ideas get moved around and talked about, analysed, digested, refined, contradicted. That's the way theorising works. put out an idea, other people sort of bench test it and it falls apart, so they go, no, it don't work, mate. Your logic doesn't add up, blah, blah, blah. So we don't need to all be able to absolutely get on with each other. We can be all working on the same ideas and concepts without having to directly interact with each other. So if there's people out there that you don't get on with, you can't interact with, you think what they're doing is just rah, then don't interact with them. That's the way I've been doing things for the last few years. I'm not going to fixate on pursuing everyone that I disagree with, because in this mass, the scale of this internet environment, even just on one platform, YouTube, the scale involved means it isn't really practicable. And even if you think it is, I think you would drive yourself crazy trying to keep up with the sheer amount of stuff that is going on in this environment. To me, it's much more effective and more helpful in the long run to just keep sailing your direction. Do your thing. Doesn't mean don't talk about other people. It doesn't mean show how you disagree with somebody or something like that. But don't do just that, because then all you're doing is just following in somebody else's wake, like a ship. Then are you really doing your thing? Are you yourself, or are you just an attachment to this other person? If all you ever do is talk about Alex Jones, then aren't you just fueling Alex Jones? Any press is good press, as they say. Oscar Wilde quote. Pursuing it from that direction, to me, it sidelines you. It sidelines people. It gets them stuck in that quagmire of all they're doing is trying to set up an authority figure, either themselves as the authority figure or whoever it is they designate. So don't listen to him, only listen to this guy. You're making yourself the authority figure for all the people that view what you're saying, who look at your videos, listen to your content. You're saying to them that they must listen to you and do what you're telling them to do. And I've ranted about this a lot now. This is probably going to add up to a stupidly long video. But I feel all this stuff is relevant and certainly interrelated into the topic, because a lot of what we're witnessing in this kind of respect of, like some of the points you're raising, is that externalized, virtualized expression of people's inner awakening process. There's this information available in your environment, there's this data coming into your senses, and your mind is working through it and going, well, what's believable, what's real, what's relevant to my life, what could possibly impact on my life that I need to be aware of? In other words, what are the dangers hiding in the bushes? Now it's on a global scale, because in this virtualized environment you've got access to the entire world. So people are trying to process the levels of deception as each layer is burnt off, and they go, oh, who do I believe? I go to the BBC, look for information, I find out more and more about how the BBC lie about this, that and the other. They're the propaganda arm of the British military industrial complex, therefore, I need to start looking elsewhere. One layer burnt off, they move forward, they start looking at other stuff, and it goes on and on and on and on. And externalizing that awakening process. Majority of people are not aware of they're doing it. They're not doing it consciously. It's just how it flows out, and the system has been ready and waiting for that, and they've accounted for that when they started giving us access to the internet. And certainly since the advent of social media, This was all part of the structure. This was a planned part of the structure. People are going to start asking questions. How do we deal with those questions? What systems do we set up to process those questions, to filter them and spin them round and back into the system? When they start seeing all the information available to show them how the government themselves carries out false flags to do this, that and the other, they'll start to question authority. How then do we disrupt that questioning, that realisation process? How do we manipulate it, malform it, twist it, trip it up and turn it back in on itself? I've ranted a lot recently about how I feel a lot of the recent innovations of technology, like the mobile smart devices, the way they're structured in terms of the way the software operates, the operating systems and the apps and the other software stuff that goes on these slabs and tablets and whatever, it is very much geared on a psychological methodology to hook people in, to manipulate their perception and their senses, and to keep them fixated in that environment. In other words, to draw them in to the virtualized environment. And then once they're in that environment, once they're externalized into that environment, you can manipulate their awakening process. So whenever they start thinking too close to the truth, you can give them a side swerve and make them go the wrong direction or turn it back in on itself. So the kind of things you're describing, the kind of points you're raising are very relevant. Yeah, I just so happen to disagree in terms of the people you're referencing. Yeah? At some point in this globalized society that we now have, whether you like it or not, if you don't like it, well, it's there. Yeah, this technology is there, and for the younger generations in particular who have been born into this world where they've not experienced the world without that technology, this stuff is part and parcel of the reality that they know. So they've adopted it fully. Even though I know a lot of younger people see this kind of stuff going on, they're aware of this stuff. But for the mass of the newer generations, they're not going to be aware of it yet. So if there are people who start to be able to reach those who are still stuck in that mainstream of the matrix, they are obviously inevitably going to rise in terms of their social media popularity. Their subscriber numbers are going to go up, their number of retweets that they get, it will go up and up and up. It's also the part of the reason why this environment has been commodified in the way it has, because as the society infrastructure changes and more people have more time to spend online and they need something to occupy them because there's nothing else to occupy them because they've got no work, etc. This environment has been structured in such a way that they're actively encouraging that there are people who do nothing but social media stuff. That's how they earn a living. They work in social media, which basically means they're a blogger or vlogger or something like that. They produce content that goes onto the social media and they earn money back from that in some manner. They want more and more people to be doing this kind of stuff. So anyway, inevitably, if somebody who's talking about the kind of stuff that we're often talking about happens to start reaching that main part of the public, then their numbers are going to go up. And the rest of us, if all we do as soon as we see somebody's numbers go up is go, oh, their numbers are going up, therefore they're bad guy, they're agent, they're shill, they're whatever, something bad, then we're never ever going to get closer to talking to the mass of the people, the mass of the public. I know you say it yourself in your comments, maybe I'm just being jealous. That could be part of it, man. If things turn out in the end where information comes out about somebody is an agent or a shill, then Show that to people. This has happened before in the past. People have been found out to be working for some agency or some shit like that, and it's been, the information has been shared around online, and lo and behold, boom, all of a sudden they disappear off the scene. Some of them are still around, like Jonesy, because they're helped to remain there. So all we can do is just keep reminding people that this stuff goes on in this environment, so please be aware that this stuff is going on around you. And that brings me back to the point of the way I try to approach this is, rather than trying to attack the kind of people you're referencing, give people the tools to deal with that for themselves. As in, rather than make yourself the authority who decides who is a bad guy and who isn't, give the people you're talking to the same ability. Pass on your knowledge, your methods of how you look at stuff, and go, hang on, he's contradicting himself there, and all he's doing there is just advertising. It's like native marketing for whatever product. You help people see how this stuff works, and then you no longer have to stand there with them constantly going, oh no, don't look at him, no, don't listen to that one, don't listen to that one. That's being their authority figure for them, in the same way as the system tries to convince people that it's their authority figure. Help people do this for themselves, help them empower themselves with this kind of knowledge and information. And then you don't have to keep following them around, helping them out all the time. I think that long-term goal, for want of a better word, I'm not trying to suggest there's an end to it, because people keep being born. Hopefully, still, as we carry on into the future, more people are going to come along who are new to all this stuff and don't have any idea about what's going on and all this other shit that goes on. They're like the multi-channel networks and all that kind of stuff that happens in the background behind YouTube. Well, behind YouTube's part and parcel of it, the whole bloody thing. So anyway, hopefully, if I can stick these video clips together, I'll get back to me camera there. Sorry if I'm like staring up there all the time. It's because I was looking at the page with the comments on, so I could read from them. I'll leave it there, man. That's going to be over an hour. Do I upload this or not? That's the question. I might. Well, obviously you'll know if you're watching this online. Then I must have uploaded it. Stupid man. It's bloody obvious. Shut up and get on with it. So thanks for listening. If you listen this far, hopefully I've said some stuff that maybe helps. Thanks for the comment, mate. I'm not having a go at you or anything. It's just they're fair enough points, and I think it's very relevant to this entire environment of what's going on, and certainly to that particular episode last night, the content of that episode, because we're talking about the awakening, and it's the virtualized awakening aspect. Right, anyway, I'm going to shut up. Thanks for listening, folks. Take care.